Just for right now. Papa's got a show.
Okay.
Now
A few seconds.
Okay, we can turn it back on.
And then we can...
There in just a minute.
Yep, there we go. All right, everybody. Here, listen to this.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Hey, guess what? It is Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. Today is June 9th, 2018. It is a Saturday, and it is currently 5:05 Pacific Standard Time. Now, due to me having the power, I can actually mute Ed, and I'm going to now unmute him to make sure that any coughing or anything did not get in the way. So, Ed, take it away.
Am I
You're
muted or unmuted
I
now?
actually unmuted somebody else because somebody showed up at the last second and I clicked. So you're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll get to people here in a minute. I'm having an interesting time here, because I'm in. Anyhow, let me thank everybody for joining us tonight. We are looking at different education here, bouncing things back and forth, not only for what I'm personally living with and what I'm dealing with and what others are. And so we are sharing and bouncing around education between each other. And this is the one thing that's getting interesting because with my situation, the state and county, I mean, people are just clamming up. And it's interesting because I'm going to start putting out these filings. But I mean, I've gone through this personal thing too, dealing with the bank closing my accounts, taking my disability money. So I'm going to be bringing that up tonight, and part of a deal. I want to bring that up so people can comprehend the law. And this is the point that when we have to file this stuff, what I'm filing. But who do we file with it? This is the other point. How do we file? Who are we supposed to file with? I mean, the thing is, when you don't have an active case or something to that point, how do you do something? And so this is the point that to bat this around, so that way we start making sure that we are not only doing the right things ourselves, but getting people in the right direction. Now, I'm trying to find this right now. It's interesting because what they did on my Social Security, I'm disabled. I mean, this is the point that they cannot sit there and take my disability check, the bank, and do all this forgery, what they have done under identity theft. Now, everybody's panicking with the county on me because they found out that actually there was a file identity theft on what they've been doing with me. So all of a sudden, the city and the county is all clamming up. So I'm going to start filing these paperwork out and these complaints and filing. So I've got to make sure that they got to get out there, because I can't sit there and figure out this waiting game. It's been going on too long for me, at least. But anyhow, I want to bring up to this. The IRS, employers, does not have any authority to take taxes out of your check. This was proven May 7th, 2018. Social Security Division, money may not be liened or levied or garnished except officers, employees, elected officials, and by court order. So they can garnish themselves, but they can't garnish we the people. In a court order, there has to be facts. Well, I never got anything like that. Social Security Section 207, 42, USC 407, assignment of benefits, rights, persons. So this is future payments. This is stuff that they can't even, Social Security disability can't even touch it when it's already allocated in these situations. So when the bank is doing what they have done to me, and because I filed on property taxes and stuff, I mean, apparently it's so crazy, but it's interesting how all this domino effect has happened. And you step out of the production and you sort of watch it, it makes you wonder. It is a coincidence. I mean, you got to step out of the movie and you can't sit there and jump to a total conclusion. But with Social Security and disability and stuff, they can't even seize their property. They can't take your property. And this is by Social Security law. But it's disgusting because we have all these public servants that they don't go by the law. And we're starting to see some slow changes in administration of what's going on today. We are watching that people are getting convicted. There's been other judges that have been recently convicted on human trafficking. So this is going through. But that means we've got to start writing these complaints up. We've got to start making sure that these the evidence is brought forth. Like I'm gonna be bringing all the evidence dealing with, with my property tax situation, because it's interesting. Because with all the stuff I filed and what's been going on in my personal life the last 15 years, it's been an interesting domino effect, and there's too many coincidences. So it's one of those things that when we live it, you get to see things, and it is interesting. So right now, I'm getting ready to start making these publications. I will have out this evening or tomorrow to all legislators, House and Senate members, and to Johnson, Mr. Johnson, who's the attorney for the council, legislative council. So I'm going to be questioning that for the rights to travel with his own words. Saying that, we're getting little bits, pieces, and it's like I can't get out to these meetings and stuff like I used to because the way it is, or the way my circumstances have developed. So this is the whole point of bringing all this stuff out. And so I just got a hold of a couple other people today. They want to do some spreading out a little bit more out in Portland area, and getting some more area brought out to that with other people in the area. And it's about time with some of these people. Some of these people have been around the groups, or a lot of our groups that some of us are members of. A lot of us are in different even Facebook groups or other groups. And it's interesting that now the groups are starting to speak up. They want to start doing stuff, but too many people are afraid to stand up in some regards. And that's the problem that we have. We can't sit there and be afraid to keep not standing up. I mean, what's going to happen to the children coming down? Right now, I called back in New York City, I called back that military base that was all over the internet and the news and all that, for calling the Mexican and had him arrested because he was an immigrant and he was delivering pizza in an army base. So everybody got upset with that. I called the army base and I called them up and thanked them. I sent them a little message too, thanking them for protecting the border, protecting we the people. And that's the one thing that people forget when we have our elected and public servants that are out there actually doing their job. And we're not backing them up. Well, I mean, everybody should have been calling that agency, thanking them for, having that Mexican arrested. And that Mexican turned out to own, that's right, he's from Mexico in the United States and making a living and off of the people. But he's not an American. So, and he doesn't believe in that because he believes that, whatever he wants to believe. So, but it's just frustrating that when we've gone through these type of things and what's coming down the pike on these things, people are waking up, and it is helping when we are standing up with these elected and public servants, the ones who are being honorable. Like I said, I'm going to be starting to get my emails out here the next few days because I just got the letter from the terrorizing me on property taxes yesterday, which got to me. They said that it was supposedly mailed over a week ago. Of course, I don't get mail from my post office because they still got mail, certified mail and stuff they've been covering since last a year ago, February. So I haven't received my mail that has been certified and other stuff, and that I've certified and sent to me for filed and record. And these men and women are holding this stuff as hostage and evidence. And, I filed on them for destroying public evidence and, stealing evidence because it's court evidence that I've filed in the stuff I've been filing with the city, county, and state. My workman's comp, and also, too, it goes back to 12/13 when, or 12, what was that, 2006 when they tried to put me in federal prison, said I was faking my broken neck. So, like I said, I've been fighting this battle with the workman's comp, with the county, with the city, with all these people for 22 years. And people say, well, why do you keep wasting your time fighting it? Well, the thing is that it's finally coming to a head. And so that's the whole point. Now, the thing is with the property taxes, I got to figure this one out. I'm going to be serving some more instruments here the next couple of days. I'm going to be batting some things around and listening to some other thoughts and ideas too, because it is an interesting situation that I'm doing doing what I'm doing. And so I just want to make sure I do it the correct way, and I want to make sure that when I do that, I'm also too including the organic constitution. And that was a treaty dealing with 1846 with the British government, and I do have a copy of that. And that's the one thing that people need to realize, that we go back to the original structure, not the corporation, that we are being shoved down our throats today. Told that we don't sit there and go by these administrative rules or these religious rules or whoever's religion this is this week's. Instead of being men and women and being responsible, just not getting an argument and fighting over somebody else's mind trips. I mean, all they do is they want to keep you fighting and arguing, and that's what we do. We fight and argue, but nobody gets a whole lot accomplished when we should be sitting there, in groups right now, putting these things together, have the treason charges brought up. It's like I still want to get the further part of the treason charges done on Kate Brown. And if everybody actually would comprehend this, including the Bundys and these other men and women, or Sharon Cox and everybody else, if they would actually comprehend how to realize what the de jure government is, we the people, and if there's 3 or more witnesses and we start putting the charges out and they have to respond to that because that's their administrative rules and that's even applied in their own regulations. I mean, either we're going to have these people start doing their job or they're not going to do their job. And if they're not going to do their job, that's where we just have to just say no more budget. We're going to have to come up with some solution. I mean, they're getting ready to raise your taxes 36% straight across your board right here in Oregon. And you're going to see a 36% straight across increase, and you're not going to feel it all at once. Just like it always happens, milk goes up, gas goes up, then milk goes down, and then gas goes up. They're going to bounce the stuff around, and it's interesting how they're doing that under the commercial codes. And we're getting all twisted up with this stuff. See, we shouldn't even be a lot of the stuff in commercial codes. They don't have a right to tax us, period, in this stuff. And like I said, I've been filing this stuff, been bringing this stuff to attention, so has many other men and women in this state. And, I mean, I do realize that, I've done a lot of things a lot differently than some, and so I have to reevaluate some things. So, I mean, I got to, and like I said, all this is a learning experience for all of us when it comes down to it. But the thing is that we got people that want to do these groups or go by these administrative rules, and it's like, the thing is that we, the people, are not going to be going by administrative rules. We have elected and public servants that are supposed to do their servitude. If they're not going to do their servitude, what's the point? I mean, right now we got men and women being assaulted in the street for traveling. I mean, you got kids being assaulted in school because they farted in a classroom. So, I mean, this is the point of where are we going to start? Where are we going to stop this stuff? How come people are allowing their kids to still go to school or get immunizations that are killing the kids? I mean, they already proved that came out with the immunizations. And so we've got these things that are on the plate. We've got a lot of us that are filing these instruments, getting them out, speaking them out. Now we got to start working on the local medias and start getting them so that way we can start getting this stuff so it's printed in the local medias. We got to start pushing on some of this stuff so that way we can get it out there. Now, we know that some of the media has been pushing the ideas out. I watched CBS and NBC, and one of those little news blips that goes across the TV, and they were talking. It was interesting. There was a concept of. It's an interesting concept of lawful bloodline Americans, and it was like I caught that, and it was like, okay. And so it is being brought up. This is the point. It is being brought up. People are speaking about it. We know it's being brought forward. And the only way we're going to save this country is by bloodline, as we know. And that means we've proven our ancestry. That means, our ancestry that fought in the wars. And once we do that, we've got the tools in our hands. We got the buckets in our field right now that we can sit there, and we have to sit there and put these things together and make sure that our country comes together. And that is the hardest thing right now is, everybody wants to talk about religion, or everybody wants to talk about this or that or the other point. Now, I'm not into religion. If we stay away from religion, we're all fine. Because the whole thing is we want freedom. We want to be a free man. We want to be a free woman. So that's the goal that we have to focus on, and how do we accomplish that? So that's the targets we need to do. Now, I'm going to be getting those letters out. I'll have them on all the Facebook pages tomorrow for the rights to travel, and then I'll do the other ones for the subsistence hunting and fishing. The other ones that I've done, I'll start doing that every day this week. I'll be emailing them to each House and Senate member. So I'm going to see what kind of response I get from them, because most of them, they do know me. And so and the point is getting it out, because, I'm not really looking forward to the challenges that I have dealing with the alleged county when they want to do this. Nobody's responding to anything that I've sent to them. So, and they're just trying to steamroll, and I get those steamrolling parts. And the point is that when it gets to a certain point, where is the cutoff? So that's the point that I'm looking at. Now, I know other people have been run off their land in this county, per se, even at gunpoint by the sheriff. I know that for personal fact. If you didn't move, the sheriff was going to shoot you. This is reality. Been there, been already around that, seen it in this county already. Which gets to me is that all these people say, I'm a Christian. Well, sorry, folks. How can you be a Christian when you watch people go through this? See, that's the one thing that gets me about religion. Everybody wants to claim there's something, but when it comes to religion, what are they willing to stand up for? See, that's the point. What religion is one willing to stand for? See, I don't believe in any technical religion. I just believe that we're supposed to be on this soil the way our forefathers planned it, the way the forefathers wrote it, and that's comprehending the 13th and 14th Amendment and these things, that the way it was done, how they were passed, not the way they were passed, comprehending the reason why things were passed to protect the future of this country compared to just having open borders, what all these immigrants and these foreigners want. And then you got to look at the bright side here. If the other side got that point, beside Trump, who knows what's all, and everybody wants to whine about Trump. Well, Trump had to make some bargains too. So where were you guys at the bargaining table if everybody's getting all upset about a lot of this stuff? Well, then, that's the point. It's not supposed to be a bargaining table when it comes down to it. We're supposed to have our rights in the 48 states. And we're supposed to have our freedom. And it says it right in the tax structures of the states. It states it right into all of our structures of the state. Going back to the foundation, and I don't care that they've done some of these administrative rules, and that's the point. Knowing the administrative rules, and we got to start standing up to these administrative rules, to these public servants, because their job is to do a job, a public servant position. And that's what they're supposed to be taking care of us instead of what's going on today. These judges need to go to prison. A lot of them do, but we need to start getting that one filed. So, and that is the one thing and there's been a lot of success that is starting to happen on that one today. But we need to get people more and more working on those things and more templates up, which we're all working on. But I mean, this is the point that, we are making headway. We are getting a lot of these things going in a positive direction. So, and we can't sit there and, scuffle over what's not being done. We have to look at what's being done and not get caught up into all these other foreign identity or foreign structures. I mean, it's like, we got a lot of people out there that's throwing a lot of stuff out there to people that are getting people in trouble. And that's the whole point. We don't want to get people in trouble. We want to learn and do it right. And so this way we have the comprehension. And so this way we're not putting anybody in any type of liability. And that's the whole point. We're not supposed to be doing that to one another. People believe in what they call, what some people believe. We're not supposed to be doing that to each other. So it is interesting when you look at what our public employees are wanting to go out, basically murder one of us or each of us for their paycheck when it really comes down to it. They're looking at how that they can make their bonus plans, on their circumstances of the income coming in. We do know that they have a lot of programs out there that they've been filtering the money down. CAFR reports are one beautiful thing that Walter Bruin has done for a lot of us across the country that have been reading his stuff and comprehending from his website. And if you haven't checked into Walter Bruin's site, please do. I mean, we've got a lot of men and women out there that have been opening up this structure with what's around us, with the money, the finances, how they've been embezzling the money, stealing our money. And this is the one thing that I have fun with people when they keep going after and say, well, we're still owned. And it's like, I keep asking people to prove it to me. I haven't seen any instruments that says technically we're still owned. I've read the instruments that how we're not in slavery. I mean, it's interesting with the Dred Scott case when you actually read it compared to what people go the way it was interpreted. But see, you got to realize with the Dred Scott case, what that came out basically said when it put it back into slavery, put it into large and C capital C and small c citizen structure. So you either had to know you were a slave or you didn't know you were a slave, but you had to know how to get out of being a slave. And that's the point that our forefathers put this stuff together so we knew who was in our country lawfully and legally. Remember, and I like the word now, but you could use lawfully too on the British side. Some people say be careful of that, but I like the, lawfully, it's Constitution. Legally, we know is the British maritime court system or, tribunal courts. So, and that's the whole point of getting the flags and these things out there, getting these things back and forth with the states when we have our senators and congressmen sending these letters back. Preferably, yes, we need to get them notarized and certified. But at least if we could get them or we could put them in the local publications, in their local media, where their local media writes a story that they wrote that in their publication. If we can't get it certified, at least if their newspapers will write that they wrote it. See, we get solutions here that we're not looking at all the opportunities of how we can sit there and work to make sure that our public employees do their servitude. And so by writing these things up and getting this stuff out, this is what, if we don't do it, the next generation is going to be far worse than what's going on. And by us doing it today And what the public servants are starting to get to it, that's what I'm just trying to. I've got to get this stuff sent out myself this week. I got myself real hammered because I didn't realize the last couple of weeks that went by just real quick. I was talking to a couple people the last couple of weeks, the last couple of days actually, and it's like, God, the last 2 months, a month and a half has just gone by so rapidly. And it is interesting with everything going on, what's going on, publicly, politically, and what's going on in Oregon and California. I mean, California's trying to divide their states up, their state into 4 states. Well, that's the point. Everybody wants to divide. How about what happened to standing together and being Americans and going, hey, we're supposed to pull this together. We're supposed to be the 48 states that's supposed to be standing up to make sure we have our rights. I know, just a thought. These things are just a thought. But when we look at these things and how we can accomplish these things, we have a lot we can accomplish. We really have a lot we can accomplish. So we're going to get this, like I said, I'm going to start getting that one emailed out tomorrow, dealing with the rights to travel, because I'm going to end up using, hang on a second, brain fart, too many things ran through my mind right there. The legislative council guy, I'm going to have to use his own words. I've got his letter. I'm going to put it out there, send it to each senator and congressman, because I got it emailed originally to me. I got that piece that was originally sent to me a year and a half ago, was sent to me by a legislator. So that was the one thing we did get that out, and that I did get that sent to me by a legislator a year and a half ago. So we're going to get all this stuff out, because now more and more people are comprehending. We've got more and more people, at least on Facebook, that are waking up to what's going on. And so we got more and more people that are willing to start helping out, so we can start getting these things done across the country. And so we start doing these things. This is how we're going to save the kids. This is how we're going to save ourselves. And remember, as the main thing, too, is be careful when you're getting into contracts, like property contracts, especially mortgages or rentals. Because they're putting even in rentals that they want you to go by what the city, county, and state administrative ordinances are. And so people need to really read that and comprehend that. And it is sad when we get put in the so-called, what they call welfare system or something like that, when we're not in the welfare system technically, but we're getting treated as that shame. When the lawful Americans, we're not supposed to have this. And I've got the stuff. I've been putting this stuff out. People have been passing it around, getting it. And like I said, when I get the files going for the race of travel and get the ones going, pumping that for the subsystems hunting and fishing again, I'm just going to start pumping all this stuff out, seeing that they haven't responded to me on the other coins. So I'm just trying to figure out, my best solution. I guess I'm going to have to make it such a, to get it out there. I'd much rather try to do it quietly, but obviously, I don't see that happening, because the county of what I've gone through with the county commissioners, the former district attorney. I mean, I've got him on talk shows where the other talk show hosts, when they had me in jail, where they were talking to the district attorney of Lincoln County and bringing up the facts when they were trying to kill me in jail. So all that's on recording. All that's out in public record. Yeah, even Rob Yvette, his own words are on the audio tapes of those conversations. So it's just getting it out. Just trying to, that's the hardest point. How do we get this stuff out? Who's supposed to do what job? Who's, and we're fighting that in the court systems too. We're trying to find out how come our courts are, we know the maritime structure, but they're supposed to be doing something, supposed to be working for us. Now, what, why, and how? How do we get there? So we are slowly learning those process, but also too, how do we get there on some of these things? I mean, we're realizing that we are being such attacked. It's like I'm still amazed that I just went through the things I just went through basically with a bank and my disability check, and I'm sitting there going, even the law says they couldn't do it, but they did it. So that's the other point, So I'm getting ready to finish doing the filings this week on that. I mean, I've got the laws that say they can't do this, they can't do that, but they already did it. So that's the other point we deal with too. So no, I mean, I get the reality that we're all living with a lot of this stuff, and I'm getting the deal of how we have to respond to it. And that's the point. We can't be, we gotta just be, straightforward. These men and women have a job to do, and if they don't have a job to do, then let's make sure that their budgets are done. We can make sure that they have no budgets. They don't need employment. They don't need a college university. They don't need a scholarship. They don't need a high school football team. I mean, all these needs, and everybody's supposed to give up their livelihood for all the needs of what somebody else wants because of their own personal greed. Isn't that what we weren't supposed to do? What some people would say in a religious point of view. So these things that we look at and we are living, these are tough times. It's really tough trying to bring up a kid. I mean, I've talked to many people today that said they're terrified to even bring a kid in this world. And so, I mean, we've got these things that are happening today. There are people that have been blessed and lucky in different job positions or their positions of wherever their schooling came from. Excuse me. That's one thing people got to remember. It depends on what schooling outfit you came from. We already know about the Illuminatis, all this stuff, but see, we have the control over it, because if you're doing that with a de facto dollar, we're supposed to have the control over it, so how come we're not controlling it? I mean, these are just things that we look at, the things that we bring up, the things that, how do we solve this issue? So the one thing is like, I'm going to be getting this one out that I'm going to be posting out. Anybody else would like to get that, utilize any of the information, because the information I will be putting out tomorrow on the driving for the state of Oregon. I have it for the state of California as well, Nevada. Several other states are already basically set up to go. And so then that way we can start putting this together, because it's disgusting when we have these, there's other people that have letters from senators and congressmen certified, and they're told if they travel, they can go to jail and stuff. And Representative Marble in New Hampshire, he brought up the deal with the right to travel in his state, and his own statement even went against him. So that's the thing that gets to me about it. It's like, if everybody goes, oh, it's a democracy, we need a vote. Well, I thought we were called a republic. Republic doesn't vote. Republic is not a democracy. Republic says no injured party, no property damage, no liability, and mind your business and go on. Doesn't mean you're entitled to have an opinion or a thought about somebody else's day. That's what a republic is. Democracy means that you can sit there and divide and conquer and lie, cheat, and steal. And then that's acceptable, And they tell you, some of the folks, it ain't acceptable. People are waking up, and that's a blessing we are doing. We are waking up. But we need to get a little faster about what we're doing. Just a little bit faster. It helps. Because we got, like I said, I don't know how far what's going to happen in my situation. You know, because I'm just being realistic. I don't have the resources, but I mean, they stole everything I had. They made sure that my stuff was taken, you know, for the last several years. So I mean, I just look at all this stuff, that the way it's been building, the way it's been developing. Hey, that's why, you know, that's why I don't have the same, I guess, beliefs that some people got, because I deal with reality. You know, can't live in fantasy. Fantasy is not realistic. And it's sad that we do live this way today. I mean, and that's the one thing that I say to people. And you wonder what Nazi Germany went through? And you can't even see it on the writing of the wall today. I mean, that's the one thing. These Nuremberg trials, I mean, they kept on saying they didn't have a right to kill all these people, but say that when are we going to stop it? Hey, everybody wants to argue about an abortion, but nobody wants to argue about, how do we protect one another? How do we ensure the borders? How do we make sure the children down the street are not starving and they have food? So, I mean, and that's the point that we're looking at these things. And yes, it is interesting. But that's the whole point. That's why putting these paperwork out. I mean, sometimes it feels like it ain't doing a damn bit of good. But at least I know it might not be doing a damn bit of good in some regards. Some regards it is. Who knows? You know? But the other point I know that is being public. It's made there. It's in public record. It's been filed in the House and Senate. It's been filed in the Secretary of State's office. So, I mean, the evidence has been, I've been filing the evidence for the last 10 years on this stuff, at least in my personal circumstance. But also, too, I've been fighting and helping a lot of other people along the way with their personal circumstances that they've been going through the same, 10 years or 20 years. Some of the same people are still around fighting the battles, and they're finally getting some headway. So, anyhow, I wanted to, that was the other thing, and to get into disability, I know I had that up here, and I wanted to bring that one part up here. Dealing with hospitals and liability. Now, we know what's going on with the hospitals. I've had contact with several hospitals recently, because dealing with my situation, because now all of a sudden, being a chronic pain patient and all this stuff, it's come to light where they're telling the general public that basically you're supposed to die now, that we can sit there and starve you to death. And everybody knows that Kate Brown in the House and Senate passed that administrative bill in the state of Oregon. So you have to realize that it says that anybody has mental issues, they can starve you to death. Inhumane treatment today. So we are living this. So this is the deal that I wanted to bring to people's attention, dealing with hospitals. Because this is the one thing that is really, people got to really comprehend this. Your hospitals are still liable. I don't care what those damn attorneys tell you. And trust me, I've been talking to these damn attorneys for the doctors in the hospital here for the last 5 years. And they keep telling me, Ed, we don't understand what you sent us. Ed, we can't comprehend and read what you wrote to us. But all of a sudden, a couple years later, they got a whole new staff change out of this, hospital. So it's interesting how those things, they rotate things. So when they do that, be careful. Hospitals are liable. Their employees are liable if they hurt a patient. If they cause even mental and emotional distress, they are liable. And so this is part of the ethics, what they go by. And I'm dealing with that with the Oregon State, what they call Doctors Board, or the same thing as the bar, another fictitious corporation. But they sit there and they put this stuff out and saying that they have responsibilities to the people and their oath. their Hippocratical oath, and I've talked to many people about that, and I'm going to people, how can you sit there and go, we're the Hippocratical oath? Where do we have it where it says it's real? See, it's like everything else. We don't know it's real. And then mental anguish, physical pain, psychological pain, not mental psychological. You know, you gotta have pain to know what pain is. It's, you know, it's not where you're sitting there out there and just whining because you stubbed a toe. There are people that are chronic pain patients and who are severe chronic pain people. And the other point is to emergency medical treatment and active labor. By law, anybody who has a medical emergency is to be treated. Does not mean you have to have a license. Does not mean that you have to have presence. You know, that it means that you are entitled to have medical coverage. And all that funding goes all the way back to the 70s. They had 40 years that they funded on the stocks and bonds that they rolled over with the ambulances, that they rolled over, and the property taxes when they were doing that. Remember, property taxes are voluntary too. It even says it in the original structure. You know, fighting that, and but this is the point that the stocks and bonds and all these things that our forefathers bought on this stuff, you know, those things were supposed to go back to the people. They weren't supposed to just be sold for the corporations. And so when you start reading this stuff, we're going back to, especially like what some of these other gentlemen have done in their research, you know, especially the CAFR reports. I mean, the reports is just astonishing. And so these are things that we need to read. Once we start getting these CAFR reports starting to be published, you know, locally, of what they've been stealing the money, hiding the money in. I mean, he's got most of this stuff already all over his websites. We could get this information and we could start finding the money. We could, you know, narrow the trails down where the money is, where they've been sloughing it off on the different angles. Because that's, you know, that's your generations of your kids' money. I mean, they just been slopping this money off of us all this time. And how are we supposed to start standing up and defending ourselves unless we do it? And so this is the one thing. And then the other point, like I said, I was getting into the duties of the clerk. Now, I'll be getting this out to everybody, which we got out. I put this out publicly many times, but I want people to comprehend the duties of the clerk, the file clerk. The file clerk has to make sure that if you put anything to the county clerk or the county or the city or anybody that is the clerk for the corporation and you file it, you want to make sure you get it stamped certified from them. And the duties of the clerk, if they don't do that, we have the actual laws. You can file it, but it has to be filed in Washington, D.C., at the clerk's department. And they don't take that lightly because that goes right to the judicial department. And they are actually starting to step up on a lot of these things now since what's going on with Trump. So, I mean, of course, I don't get into a lot of that stuff because I don't vote. I don't get into those things. You know, but it was interesting to see how a lot of this stuff is coming through, knowing the federal rules and evidence too. These things are very apparent, and that's what we've all been reading. We're all learning this stuff. But this is the one thing I'm making sure that when you're reading this stuff, you comprehend it. There are a lot of YouTube videos up here that are out there too, that you can watch the videos, and you can watch the videos as you read what you're reading too. And a lot of people have put the videos up and walking you through it. And also too, there's good videos. Brain fart. Reading too many things, and my mind went off. You know, there's a lot of good videos up. And then IRS does not taking your taxes. They do not have authority for Social Security to withdraw any funds. This is the law. I'm reading their law, their administrative rules. So, I mean, I've got their administrative rules that what they can't do, even though they just did this to me. So I'm fighting this right now with, I'm opening up a couple Pandora boxes, I guess, with some investigations. I started filing the paperwork on this the last few days, going after them, seeing that they did this and went after me with my counts and all this. I mean, I don't know. It's just a coincidence, but then again, you know, when it's just a lot of coincidences. So anyhow, I think we're going to end up opening up the floor, see what we're going to end up and go in what direction at this point, see what we're going to bring in. And so I think we'll just go ahead and open up the floor at this point. I guess
All participants are unmuted.
Okay. Anyhow, I guess we got a lot of no's today. Anyhow, anybody got anything they would like to bring in or bring up tonight?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Are they allowed to dock you if you report retiring 2 years late? Can they just take away money from you because you didn't report your report that you were retired?
No. You didn't, just because because that here. Let me send you this. This is this is what they try to get away with, so long as that they could pocket the money, and this is what they're doing. It's like, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here in the next few weeks dealing with my situation with the property taxes that I've been going after. You know, I've been asking them to prove this stuff. You know, certify the debt. I've been asking them to, you know, I even asked them to certify what oath they took. So, I mean, that's what's sort of interesting. Nobody wants to talk, but, you know, I'm just getting threatening letters, basically. And so that's the one thing. I'm going to send this to you here in a second. It just drives me nuts what they're doing, because they're supposed to legally, by their own administration rules, even respond back to me before they could even do any other maneuver. So that's the other thing that gets to me, that they're not even following their own administrative rules. We know this stuff, but that's the saddest part. And how are we supposed to handle it? Because our forefathers handled it a different way. We're so compassionate today, or not compassionate, I guess, so soft today. We're not like we were, you know, 50, 60, 80 years ago, if that makes sense. So, hang on a second. Let me get this to you. So I'm going to send this to you right now, so you got that. But no, they have administrative rules that these men and women are supposed to go by. And so, like I said, I'm going to start filing this stuff. I've got one, you know, supposedly a congressman that's supposed to be involved in this one with my bank account, because they're freaking out because I filed on it, and I'm doing the comp controller Monday. Let them go fight it, because the comp controller is the one that has to deal with it, not me. That's their rules. And that's the one thing that we got to realize, that, you know, when they have comp controllers and stuff like this, when they're, you know, taking our resources for their gain, you know, they have these rules. Somebody's supposed to enforce them or buy them. So it does make you question a lot of that. And then the other point is like a wise man says, get it certified. And that's the other point. We got to make sure that we try to get everything certified. Their words, their statements, their initials, their signatures or autographs on the paperwork. I mean, we've got them out there to do this, so we can make sure these things happen. Okay. So I'm saying this to you right now on Social Security. Well, like I said, this is the other point on the research on this stuff, is getting it so if, we're doing the right research, we're reading their stuff, so they're supposed to do something constructively correct. So, I mean, it's just where we're at right now. So it's just how we're going to solve some of these issues. And that's the point. How are we going to solve some of these issues? And the main thing is getting them filed. It's like another guy was just aiding with the last couple of days what he's going through, and is getting the stuff filed. I mean, when they're going after you, it's like, I'm getting ready. I got to start filing some other stuff on these guys, on the county, and I got to make sure it goes to the state and the other outlet. I mean, I've already filed. The other point is I filed on them with the ethics committee and all these other committees. Nothing's ever transpired. So it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder about who's, what, and why. So that's just the one thought theories working on that one. Like I said, I will have the ones on the ones out tonight on that tomorrow. I mean, because I'm going to start getting that every day this week. Like I said, I didn't realize this last couple weeks has really gone by quick. And I was talking to several people about that today, and it was interesting. We all were like, "Whoa." So, but anyhow, I'm just figuring out what's going to happen here in the next couple weeks on my stamps. So that's just the way I'm looking at life. So, did you get that one already?
No, I haven't seen it yet come through.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. I thought I did. It should. I'll do it one more time. Because, see, this is the one thing, too, is that when you're getting your disability check and stuff, see, disability, this is the one thing that people don't get. Disability, Social Security disability was only meant for we the people. It wasn't meant for, foreigners and the Cubans and all that when they opened them up with, Carter was the one who opened up all the stuff for the Cubans. And then the Clintons were another one that was filtering everything through Arkansas for a decade. Which is just sort of stunning how people just watched all this stuff happen. And or a lot of people, it's like people say, we get wrapped up in things, we don't see it until it's too late. So, or almost too late, I should say. So anyhow, you should have that now. So that's the whole thing, is getting this information out, passing it back and forth with each other. So at least we're putting it together, we're making our stance. We know our stance with the kids. We're getting to know our stance with, our situation around us, land. Filing on the different things. Like I said, I got a lot of filing this week myself because I got several things I have to block. So, I mean, I find it amazing that people just feel that people are supposed to just, die for them, give their stuff over to them because everybody's always out. Some people are just out for themselves, and it's sad that it's developed that way. So, but anyhow, we covered quite a bit on that one today. And like I said, I'm going to be getting this stuff starting to hammer out the next couple of days. I've been getting the other ones out with the flag issues. And so we'll get these other ones out because I figured might as well start getting these things out. See what kind of responses we can get around the at least Oregon State and anybody else. So I'm going to try to get Mike to pump some of these out. I've got a lady that will be doing, she has volunteered to do all of the central faxing. So to fax to all the corporation people, public servants. She has a network so she can just plug in and fax a lot of this stuff out. So I want to try that in. If anybody's got any ideas for that, we could get that set up. Because like I said, she's ready to start channeling, just to start faxing across the country on to the senators and congressmen. So we are getting working to get a network set up on that one for faxing. So if that makes sense. So that's what I've been working on, or what we're working on getting out and developing, and what we're trying to solve the issues. So I guess with that one, anybody else got anything they would like to add? Okay. Well, if nobody's got something to add, why don't we just call it an evening, and then that way I'll get to start writing, and I can start getting these things ready to be out to the House and Senate, so I can start getting these things rocking and rolling for us. So with that, I'll go ahead and say, may the Great Spirit bless you, Mother look over you, and the Creator watch over all of us.
Today's date is
All participants are muted.
June 9th, 2018. And this may have been a short show, but it did have some good information into it. So, yep, catch us tomorrow with Education by Ed. And remember, Ed does not have a life. He works on these things almost continuously. He has to make time to work on his own property, his own soil, in between all these things that he's trying to get info and instruments worked up for everyone to be able to use if they're willing to take the liability when they use them. So we are not lawyers, we are not attorneys, and we do not take liability for your actions. We're just giving out information, and it is your decision to either use that information or not. Thank you very much. Have a very good night.